What's up? Welcome to the First Class Podcast, where we talk about Bitcoin, crypto, NFTs, and everything Web3. I'm your boy Canucks, and I'm here with my man JB. J Boogie, tell him who we're talking to today.
Today we talk to the man, the myth, the legend, Bunchu Betts, certified DGen. We were talking about tools that he uses, his journey into NFTs, DGen network, and a whole bunch of good stuff. You're not going to want to miss this one.
Yeah, and to be honest, like he was giving gems the whole way through the episode. He started off with some heavy alpha, and then, we got into his origin story. We talked a little bit about crypto versus NFTs. We talked about alpha versus education. And then at the end, he just went on a tear and he was just giving out gems like crazy. So stick around to the end of this one. Make sure that whatever podcast platform, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you're listening to this, definitely follow, subscribe, like, share, all of the above, and we'll see you on the other side.
Bunchu, before we get started and we talk about your journey, how does one come up with the name Bunchu? Like where does that come from? Because it's super unique. I've never heard this name before.
What a interesting, this nickname came from a family 4th of July party in 2009. And it was, I can't even remember exactly how it started, but somehow my family started calling me Don Bunchu, like a mafia Don. And it just stuck. But this Bunchu character became like my alternate personality with my buddies. And we go out, it'd be like, oh, Bunchu's here, and then he was the partier and all that. And, when I got into crypto back in 2017, it wasn't really like it is now where, a lot of people are doing video and all that. It was very pseudonymous where nobody used their real name. And so I made that my Twitter persona. And so I've had that nickname, man, since 2009. Isn't that nuts?
Oh, that is crazy. Cause when you see all these people, behind their PFPs, a lot of people don't go by their government names. People are building brands around, I heard someone say they bought a cool cat for the branding purposes of it.
Oh, totally.
And you see people like Thread Guy. He's the hype. He's the head of hype for Jenkins The Valet now because, he's behind this Twitter account and he's built this brand around his Twitter account. And his name is Thread Guy, that he never writes threads. And it's just
he wrote one epic thread to begin it all. And we just been waiting ever since.
Yeah.
No, I follow him though. He's dope.
He's funny. He's funny.
Master of Vibes. Isn't that what he's called?
Something like that.
Hype, man.
Well, I mean, even Jenkins The Valet in general, right? That entire project is built behind somebody taking an ape and branding it, right? And so, and now, I mean, that's a massive, when you think of what Bored Apes did and innovated with the giving the IP, right? Giving that IP to your holders, that is the biggest prime example of something I think we've seen so far. I mean, that is a hugely successful project. I mean, the floor on those tickets, that whole project is a journey. It was, I think the floor is 1.5 now, but after they minted, it got down to 0.01. And we had a whole DGen network war room story about Jenkins in general. But I mean, that's the really big first example of somebody taking that IP and making it something really big, right?
Do you feel like going into that story? Because we have our own story. Mine didn't end well.
We definitely do. Yeah. We definitely do. But hold on. What is the DGen War Room?
Okay, so the DGen network is something that I am a co-founder of, along with Steve NFT Bark, who you guys have spoken to, Captain Zwingli, who does Coffee with Captain in the mornings, our Twitter Spaces, myself, my podcast co-host Chamber, and now Morgan is on our team. And so the War Room is our Discord chat where we just talk DGen NFT stuff 24/7, 365. And it's become this very closed, hooded gigabrain alpha area where people are just sharing stuff from all over and really valuable information that is actionable. And we've just kind of kept it this really nice, tight-knit community. There's probably about, I don't know, I think we have like 500 people in the Discord, but only, I would say maybe 50 or so are active in the war room every day. And it's just like our home base, And so like, that's where all the fun goes down, and people come in, share information, things like that. We'll have to get to you guys in the war room so you can come hang
I would
out.
love to, because you're a degen, we're degens. Like, we can degen together.
That's really what the war room is. It was tonight turned into, right before this, turned into gambling on the NFL draft. So that was a fun time as well. And so we were doing that before we got out here. But the Jenkins thing is funny because we had Jenkins the day of their launch on my podcast, The Mint Condition. And it was like hours before they launched. Everybody was hyped up for this mint. And if you remember the actual mint day, the website just totally died on them. Like nobody could get on the website, and we just realized how much traffic and demand there was for this mint. So on the fly in the war room, that was the day that we all learned how to mint from the contract. And so like we were, I was in there with like Captain Zwingli, and we were teaching everybody in there how to mint from contract, like live on the fly. And like people were minting for each other and sending ETH back and forth, all this stuff. And it was a really fun experience. It like really was our first like galvanizing event in our Discord. That was really fun. And so we were all hyped about it. And then, the price went to 0.01. Everybody was sad about it. And now if you held on, you're in good shape. But it's typically how it goes, right?
I know like you obviously can't go like into opening a command line interface or whatever, but like how does one mint directly from a contract? I know like there's been situations that have happened where people are like, yeah, Infura's down. Well, you can just change the endpoints that your MetaMask points to and like all this technical stuff. But what's the process like at a high level of minting from a contract?
It's actually really simple. So I think we were chatting just really quickly about tools right before, we came on. And I always tell people that Etherscan is one of the best tools you can learn. It seems so simple, but it's actually like, daunting for a new person to look at. But if you understand what you're looking for and what you're looking at, it's actually the best tool you can use, right? All the information's there, everything, the contract specifically in this case, right? So when you're looking at the contract, there's a very easy way if you're just like looking at OpenSea to go get a contract address. You just like click on one of the items and you go to the, where you're usually looking at properties. Underneath that, it'll say details, and it'll have the contract address. If you click that, it takes you right to Etherscan. And when you're on that page, you can actually, there's a tab that says contract. You click that and it brings you into, you can actually read all of this is typically a mint, and it'll also have a read button, read contract, and a write contract. And so when you're clicking the write contract button, that's where you're just going to connect your wallet, and you can actually perform the transaction right there. There's typically a mint function that's pretty easy to identify, and you enter the quantity, you enter the total amount of ETH. So if something is 0.1 ETH and you want 10 of them, you're going to put in 1 ETH. And then you maybe sometimes have to enter your address, sometimes not, and it'll just hit submit, and then your MetaMask will pop up and you've got it right there. And like one of the reasons you want to do this, right, is you can do everything for any of these mints right on Etherscan. So if you have like 2 tabs open, you can see pending transactions. So like how many people are trying to get a transaction through. And in the case of something like Jenkins or these really, really hyped up mints, where it's not uncommon to see the website go down, right? If the website's down, you can still mint. So like all that time people were piling into Jenkins and the website was down, we were over there on the contract just running transactions back and forth, right? So it's a really good skill to learn if you don't know it, because it's one of those things where it's like you do it once and you're like, oh, why wasn't I always doing this? You know what I mean?
All right, folks, that's all for this episode. Hey, that is mega giga brain alpha right there. That's dope. I like that.
I think I'm gonna try and learn that, because there's been times where that's happened to me, and you're just kind of like waiting for things to happen. I did not know there was like a loophole behind it.
I don't even know if it's a loophole. It's kind of like, isn't that like technically?
I mean, it's actually it's really like the base way to do it.
Yeah.
It's if you took the going to a project's website and stuff is just kind of like the facade for what's all going on in the back end, right? So you're just kind of cutting out that middleman and going right to the source, right? Because everything can be done directly through interacting with all these contracts. Like you could do stuff that, aside from minting, you could like transfer NFT. If OpenSea is ever down and you wanted to move something from one wallet to another, you could do it right there from the contract. You enter like your token ID, your address, all that. You can transfer something from one wallet to another that way. You can actually, one of the other cool things is like when you're looking for, say, a delayed reveal, right? OpenSea is being slow, but you know that the metadata is out. You can actually ping your token ID, and it'll give you the IPFS string, and you just pop that into your browser, and it'll actually show you what you have before OpenSea does, right? So, I mean, there's a lot of cool things you could do with Etherscan and the contract, and it's definitely worth learning because it feels like a cheat code once you know it all.
Yeah, I'm definitely lacking. So with all this information that you're giving us right now, like I have to kind of rewind a bit. Like, how did you get involved in the Web3 space? Like, what was your first taste of this space? Yeah. Was it crypto? Was it NFTs? Was it NBA Top Shot?
It was crypto. And so I got into crypto in 2017, and I actually got in via sports betting. So at the time I was really into, betting on sports, and it was hard. It was getting harder and harder at that time to like make deposits through your bank. Right. And so what you started to see a lot was these sports books offering deposits in Bitcoin. Right. And so I was looking at into that. And that's how I ended up originally downloading Coinbase, right? And so bought a little Bitcoin on Coinbase, deposited into the sports book, won a couple bets, lost a couple, but then I cashed it back out to Coinbase. And when you cash it, I cash it back out in Bitcoin. And at the time in 2017, this was just for context, at the time, Bitcoin was $1,200. And that's how early it was in 2017. And I felt late in 2017. And but so at the time, this was like right in the run up of like 1,200 to the all-time high at the time, which was like $3,500. And I would make a bet, I'd win it, I'd cash it back out to Coinbase, and every time the number would go up. And I'm like, I wonder what the hell I should actually probably learn about what the hell I'm doing here. And at the time also, Coinbase only had Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin on it. So it was, okay, well, let me learn about these three cryptocurrencies. And so I went down the rabbit hole of kind of learning about it. And that was it. I was hooked, and I never really looked back. And I got, that 2018, I started a crypto podcast with my buddy Chamber, my co-host, and we've been doing that podcast ever since. And so crypto was really the intro for me. And in 2018, that was my first dabble with NFTs. There was a lot of like really early NFT stuff going on at that time, like crypto kitties. So, that was the first Dapper Labs project, right? So that was them before they did Top Shot. And so that was interesting. I dabbled around in that just a tiny bit. And there was also like these really weird, very Ponzi like projects that were going on. Like being on NFT Twitter these days, you're not a stranger to, the influencer shill type of folks that you see there. Same with the crypto Twitter. And at the time, like this was the first time people were really doing stuff with ERC 721, which is the NFT token standard, right? And so I remember this project, it was called Crypto All Stars. And somebody put these trading cards out of their favorite like big crypto influencers. And it was literally you bought it of say, say I buy a NFT Bark trading card, right, for zero point 0.1 ETH, it automatically got relisted for double the price. And it was just, and then someone would buy it. And it was like this just game of like influencer hot potato until somebody was left holding the bag. And like, this was like one of the first experiences with NFTs. And I was like, what is this? But the whole like digital trading card thing made a lot of sense to me. And that was like what really got me hooked there. And then there was another project, it was like around Pepe the Frog memes, and it was called Pepe Dap, and people were trading all these frog trading cards. And I just remember like I would buy something and immediately sell it for like 4 or 5 times what I paid for it. And you're just like, oh, this is great. But yeah, that was 2018. And then it took a while for NFTs to really take off. And in that time, you had the crypto bear market come. And so people were like losing interest and stuff. And then it really didn't come back and turn around until, 2020. And that was when I really got deep down NFT rabbit hole and doing stuff with art blocks and all that. And so that's kind of how I got in. And all this time we're doing the podcast, and we started Mint Condition last year. And that's been a really fun time as well. But yeah, I can't believe it's been like 5 years.
So like how much gray hair you got under that hat, man?
Dude,
that's the
no joke.
Crypto, I feel like it will take some years off your life.
Crypto and honestly NFTs too, but NFTs are just more fun. You know what I mean? Like there's I always tell people, yeah, there's vibes. Exactly. I tell people time, it's like crypto always felt to me like every man for themselves. And it was like you were always trying to take someone else's lunch money. And in NFTs, it feels much more like everyone together, right? Like, there's some tribalism and things with different projects, but for the most part, NFTs are very much community based, community focused, and it just feels like it's so much more fun. Absolutely.
I mean, how could you not have fun when it's like it's you and a group of people are all cheering for that? Well, I mean, not every community is cheering for floor price, but I mean, damn it, floor price goes up. There's a whole Discord room full of people who are like, yes, let's go.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Or like on a night where you mint something and you're waiting for it to sell out and everybody's in the Discord, watching the mint go and all that kind of stuff. And it really is. I mean, the community aspect is something that I think is so important about what's actually going on here, besides for the floor price. I think all of Web3 now, as we're lovingly calling it, is just this change from I always talk about it being a change from like Web2 is about users, right, and getting users, and Web3 to me is changing from user to owner, right? Like with the shared incentive thing that goes on. And it's all about making users owners and participants with shared incentives rather than just, hey, I'm going to put some product out and sell your data. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's super interesting, like your story too, because a lot of the people that we meet in the NFT space aren't really into crypto. And a lot of the people that we meet in the crypto space aren't into NFTs. So the fact that you have a background of both is pretty cool. And like we're talking about Web3, we're talking about NFTs right now. Where do you think the state of NFTs are right now? Because we're seeing a lot of derivatives. We're seeing some projects going crazy, like Bored Apes. Azuki had a little bit of their run. Moonbirds recently had a huge run. Where do you see the state of NFTs right now? And what do you think people are looking for when it comes to investing in NFTs now?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question, because you can feel right at this point in time, it feels like there's a shift going on, right? Like from, let's say between August and November of last year, it was just like degen season, or even earlier than that, from like July to November, was you just mint whatever you can as much as you can, and number goes up. And and really what that was a function of, if you step back and think about it, was there was not as many projects for the number of participants in the market, right? So it was a really supply and demand thing, right? And Des, who's a co-host with us on Mint Condition, he launched, he's the founder of the GOATS project, and he launched that last July. And I remember at the time, he was worried because there was 4 other projects launching that week, not that day, that week, 4 other projects launching that week, and he was worried. And so, it was very much a supply and demand thing at the time where you had all these people seeing the money go, follow the money. And there's just so much demand and so little supply. And now it's quite the opposite. You have, you have 20 projects going off every day. And so you see, right, it feels like right now we're seeing this flight to quality, right? And the derivative projects that you could mint at the time, like that would go 3, 4, 5x, just aren't cutting it anymore. So what are people looking for? What is the next thing? It's quality, and quality means a lot of different things. It means quality of founder. It means quality of concept, something that's going to be innovative and push the space forward in one way or another. One of the projects that I'm involved in is the Ben Mesnick project, and we are doing something really cool over there where Ben Mesnick is this New York Times bestselling author. He wrote the book that turned into the movie The Social Network, which is one of the most highly recognized movies of all time. Wrote the movie that turned into wrote the book that turned into the movie 21. And so with this project, he's actually writing a screenplay about the NFT space. And he's giving portion of 50% of that to the community, to the holders for holding his token, right? So like something like that, right? That's innovative and hasn't been done before, rather than just, hey, my MF or Doodle Azuki clone mint that I see coming up on Icy Tools, right? So it's like I said, it's flight to quality in the sense of quality founders, quality projects, or with quality innovative roadmaps, and then projects that have proven themselves already from last year, right? Like the things we call blue chips now, right? Like that have been around for a while. And what's really interesting about I think a really prime example of this is Moonbirds, right? Because we saw Moonbirds just burst onto the scene, go parabolic in 7 days. And some people are sitting here and they're like, well, why? Like, what have they done? And what they're missing is that the founders behind that have a 20-year track record of building stuff. And yeah, it's not in Web3, but those founders have also spent the last year in Web3, really ingrained in it. And so what that tells me is people are looking for that type of quality surrounding the back end on who's actually running these projects. So docs founders with a track record that people feel safe betting on, because at the end of the day, we're all just making these little venture capital type seed bets with our ETH, right? And you want to be backing things that you feel good about and things that are different and innovative with people that are trustworthy, I think. And I think that's where we're headed. And I'm interested to see what happens on Saturday with the Bored Ape land sale, and because that feels like a seismic event in the NFT space, and I'm very interested to watch all the fireworks.
Man, you hit it on the head, because like I think the promise of crypto initially, because there's no NFTs without crypto, so I'm just bringing it back to the origin, but it's democratizing finance. And for so many years, and I mean, even still, you had to be an accredited investor to get into the best opportunities, or you had to be in a certain network. You had to live in a certain area, whether it's, if you're in the Valley, to get your business looked at. But now with these crypto networks, you've been able to have things like NFTs pop up. We use these Web2 tools to build communities in this Web3 space. And then now anybody could spin up a project. And I think the pendulum, to your point, is like swinging back the other way, because it went very easy to get involved and to find stuff. And then that made it super watered down. but I think it made us all appreciate the fact that these at their core are businesses. Like legit,
Yes.
To run an NFT project, you need to be an operator. I think that's where you see the guys, the Kevin Roses,
100%.
the Gary V's, like they're doing really well because they're operators. So I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah, and what's interesting about what you just said is, and this is what I love about the space, is that's not the only way to make it, right? In the sense that, you know, you don't have to be Kevin Rose, you don't have to be Gary V, but what you have to be is an operator, and you have to be innovative, and you have to be dedicated to building. I always say it's really easy to make the baby, it's hard to raise the baby, right? And that's what you're doing when you like you go and you put out art and a project, and you can take everybody's money, but then what, right? Then that's when it's okay, now it's time to go build something and deliver something to your community. And that's the thing that separates the good projects from the bad projects. And it's not even about floor price all the time. Obviously, that's what we like to see because we want to make money doing this. But you know, like it's one follows the other, right? Like you're going to find solid projects that are operating well that may just need more awareness, but they're quality, right? So what I love about what you just said there is it's making somebody with the right business skills, creativity, and drive. They don't have to have been Gary V. They can be the next Gary V, right? And that was not always a possible thing, you know?
I love it. Yeah. And I mean, shoot, I've definitely put some money into some regrettable stuff. I've made some.
You want to see my hidden folder, dude?
I've made some mistakes we're making,
Yeah.
but you know what though? It's fun to like be so close to the people who are making the value, right? Like you could be in a Twitch stream with the artist watching them draw.
Yeah.
And then would turn around and watch them make $250,000 on a mint. And you're like, that's my person.
I know that guy.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's cool, man. The sense of community, to your point earlier, is like, it's like something I never really experienced, because especially in real life, where they call it the meat space, most of the people I meet on a day-to-day basis really do think that I'm like out to lunch, or they'd be like, hey man, I'm thinking about becoming a real estate agent in the metaverse. Can you help me out? Like, buddy, like I don't know who you think I am, but I just buy JPEGs and collect these little crypto coins. So I'm not a real estate agent, but
you're like, hey, let me sell you this ad space on this digital park bench and we'll start there.
Right, man. All my friends are virtual these days. I feel like
same. It's crazy. Like, and that's probably bad. That's a bad thing. Like I have found myself losing touch with some of my real friends because I feel like I'm on this island. Like I can't talk to them about this stuff. They think I'm crazy, or they either think you're crazy or they think you're bragging, right? And because you're either telling them about this pixelated owl you just bought that's worth $100,000, or they're like, what are you even talking about, right? And so you find your peeps here, and they become your new family,
Once you should try being a DGen, being in the Web3 space in a locker room. Everybody looks at you like you've been hit in the head too many times, because you're like, why are you like, how is this picture worth $100,000? And then you start explaining and they're like, I still don't get it. This isn't going to last. And I'm like, all right, you'll see.
That's an interesting point, because I feel like in the past year, we've seen quite a bit of athletes kind of get into the space. I would imagine the percentage, though, overall is probably pretty small, right?
It is, because most of the athletes that come into the space they come in because they hear there's money to be made, right? Mm-hmm. But a lot of them don't actually understand the things behind the NFTs and kind of where the space is going. I could probably just name a few of them that actually understand it. But I think once more athletes catch on, that's when I think things will start getting more interesting on within the athletic side. But for now, like the main thing that attracts most athletes is the money.
But that's not just athletes.
Yeah, it's everybody. It's everybody.
Me. I mean, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't interested in money. I'm lying, right? But
yeah.
But what's interesting there is, you know, these athletes and celebrities alike, right? Like they stand the most to gain if they actually take the time and understand it and do it right, right? Like, because we're talking about community, and who has a bigger community built in off the jump than some of these athletes, celebrities, you know, really. And it's part of why Gary Vee's so goddamn successful, and Kevin Rose, because they're this plus they're famous, right? So they've got these communities built in. And so if the ones that really do take the time and understand it and aren't doing cash grabby type things just to take advantage of their communities, those are the ones that will win. And there will be plenty of them that come in and do it right, and they'll be monsters, right? Like I really do think that.
Man, I remember seeing Tom Bilyeu was about to put out an NFT. And the very first time he spoke on it, I don't know if something changed since then, but the very first time he spoke on it, he's like, yeah, we're going to drop these. They're going to be like 2 ETH. And I'm like, damn, dude, like, are you out of touch with, like, people are minting your first NFT. You don't even know what the hell's going on for 2 ETH, bro. Like, come back down to earth, man.
Yeah.
But it's so hot that I think maybe a lot of people jump in prematurely before they fully have a pulse of the situation, of what's really going on and the best way to approach things, and the concept of allowing your community to be profitable with you instead of you
and have access to you, and you know, and it's like, if you're it's the same thing we talked about with the building a business, right? It's like you have to commit to it if you're a famous person or an athlete or whatever, where it's like, you know, they're there for you, they're there for you as part of the community, and if you're not into it, it ain't gonna work, right? But also, you know, some of these people fall victim to the people that get in their ear, right? The person that's making this NFT for them, producing it for them, has probably given them the wrong vision of what this actually is. And it's, hey, we'll do this for you. You can make a ton of money. Give us X cut. And all they really care about is the mint proceeds and not what actually is behind it. And so, you know, I'm sure that's there's some Web3 folks to blame for some of that as well.
100%. Like, I'm not like a big name athlete or anything, but like I've made some pretty good connections in this space. And like I've heard a lot of stories about like people that are like Web3 influencers, known people that are like, you know, helping people, athletes, celebrities with their projects, and just giving them some terrible advice. And it's just like, now it's a rug, and now the athlete's getting blamed, and they just like disappear from the space.
Yeah.
Hey, Courtney, do your own research, fam. That's like rule number one. That's why I'm glad that I came into this through Bitcoin, is because Bitcoiners are like perpetually paranoid. Oh yeah. They're so paranoid. Like there's nobody is more paranoid than a Bitcoiner, but they're going to force you to get your OPSEC up, you know, like
sec, and then you'll also be like doomsday prepper, and you'll have it all. You got it all. You'll have 30 cans of tuna, and you'll be able to get off the grid really easy.
Right, and you'll never give up your seed phrase.
That's right. That's right.
Hey, so I got a question for you. Talk about Mint Condition podcast. So what do you guys talk about on there, and tell us about the vibes?
Man, we're a lot like you guys. We aim to have fun. We aim to have fun, and we educate, and we talk about, I mean, so it's me, Chamber, who's been my podcast co-host on Wrecked for years. What's funny about me and Chamber is like, I would consider him probably, if not my best friend, one of my top 3 best friends. We've never met in person. Yeah, we've never met in person.
That's becoming so normal. Like, it doesn't even surprise me.
It's Web3 as hell, right? It's like, so he lives in Canada, and I'm in New Jersey, which is not Canada.
Yeah, we're Canadian, if you didn't know.
Yeah, I did. So he's up in Toronto area. So he's in Canada. I'm in New Jersey, and we've never met. And so, but he's been my boy since 2018, and how we actually got started together is so weird. It's just just serendipitous. He just put out a tweet. I had actually done my first podcast appearance on somebody else's podcast like a week before. So I'd never done any podcasting myself, but I had a blast being on the show. And a week later, he put out a tweet and it was just like, oh, I'd love to do a podcast about people's wrecked stories in crypto. And so I was like, oh, I'll do this with you. And within a week, we had our first recording going. And so that was how our podcast started. It was actually interviewing, big crypto people about their wrecked stories, which was just so much fun, right? And it lends itself to a lot of antics and fun. And so that's how it started. And then in last year, just over a year ago, I think March was our first episode of Mint Condition, and I was like getting really super deep in NFTs, and I was like, dude, we should start an NFT show. And so it was me, Chamber, and we were looking for somebody that was like good with data, because at the time Top Shot was the talk of the town, and everybody was looking for like Top Shot data analytics, market stuff. Like that was when moment ranks and things like that were coming out. And so we got in touch with Dez just through Twitter, somebody we met on Twitter, and we asked him if he'd want to be on the podcast, and that was it. So now the three of us have been doing that show for a year, and it has evolved now from like a lot of guests to mostly us analyzing the market and just having fun talking about projects, and just trying to educate people on things that if they're in this space, they need to know to navigate it properly. And like you said, do your own research. A lot of it is, showing tools, showing market stuff, and ultimately just having a blast. Like we have a good time over there. We'll have to do a crossover show, I think.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
we're down.
Like, yeah, just let us know. We're definitely down. And I think like that angle's super cool because like,
wait, hold on. You know why it's cool? Because JB got wreck stories.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you want to hear a wreck story?
Oh yeah,
buying Anthony Davis Cool Cats at the top and just seeing that thing just plummet.
Dude,
that was fun.
All of Cool Cats was one of the worst.
Getting my wallet hacked twice. That was fun too.
Dude, oh man, really?
He's not a Bitcoiner now. He's slightly a Bitcoiner.
I'm super paranoid. I don't own anything of value.
The Cool Cats. Oh my god, I remember literally having my cursor over the buy button on a Luca Cool Cat at like $7,400, and I thought better of it. I was like, oh, I'll wait, and then thank God I didn't do that. But
yeah, we had the real Phil Dion, and we were talking about that, the all the Cool Cats conspiracies and stuff like that. Now I'm on to All Day. They just dropped their first challenge today. I don't know if you're on All Day, but yeah, Courtney's probably gonna leave during this conversation. He said he needs to heat up his house, but yeah, no, I feel like that angle is super cool as far as like the education and showing people the tools that you could use when you're entering the space. Because when I entered, it was so weird. Like no one wanted to help you out. Like you would ask questions and people would be like, do your own research. And I'm like, what the hell does that mean? Like, where do I go? Like all I knew was the first mint.
You were my research.
Yeah, I was like, I remember entering the space and my boy's like, follow these 10 people. Like these are who I follow to get like information. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm following these people and they're like, trippy babies is to the moon. And then I go and I look at trippy babies. And it's like 1 ETH. And I'm like,
and you're like, shit, how did I miss Trippy Babies? I'm such an idiot.
I'm like,
I should have known. I should have known. Everybody loves a Trippy Baby, right?
Yeah. I'm like, how do I find out about these things? And then, that's when I started coming to Courtney and I was like, we should do a podcast because we can actually help people, have an idea of at least what to look for. Like we can provide you with information and then you go and do your own research instead of just being like, do your own research. So then I end up on Instagram looking at Gary V promoted fake NFT projects and get rugged.
Yeah. And there's a difference between like an alpha group and education.
Yes.
We're not
Well,
literally giving you trading signals.
yeah,
No.
and that's what I was going to say too, right? It's like it's twofold, right? It's one, having, just like you said, having a trusted network too that you can bounce ideas off of, share projects with, and have them give input on, right? Because you might have blinders on, like you might think trippy babies is the coolest thing since sliced bread, and your dude's like, bro, no, it's fucking trippy babies. What are you talking about? But like you need a group like that, and you also need to know what tools are out there for you to assist you with all that research, and you need to know what to look for, right? Like what makes a good project, what makes it have potential. And I talk to a lot of people that are like, hey, what do you think of this project? Why isn't it doing anything? And sometimes there's some pretty glaring things that stick out, that, hey, if you just had these things on your checklist, maybe you'd have saved yourself from this project, right? Or like even the Etherscan thing, right? It's super important to me to watch something like Etherscan, because say I have a good feeling about a project and I'm like, okay, I want to mint this. Everybody's hyped to mint on mint day. The mint goes live, and this has happened to me. I'm like one of 300 people that minted this damn project, and it ain't going anywhere, right? So you're like, oh crap. So all right, well, how do you, like, everything looked good, right? The Discord was popping. It had 50,000 people in it. How could this be? How could there only have minted 300? All these people, it seemed like there was this demand. It could have been avoided if you add a couple things to your tool belt that you look for before you mint. One, for most projects, you don't need to be the first one to mint, right? It's not, and so looking at Etherscan, watching transactions pending is super helpful, right? So if I know I've got a 10,000 supply and I'm looking at Etherscan and 300 have been minted while I'm going to mint, and there's not pendings piled up, like I'm probably going to wait, right? Or yeah, but the Discord has 50,000 people in it, I need to hurry up. Well, okay, how many of those actual Discord members are actively online, right? Do I have 50,000 people in this Discord, but 1,000 online? That means most of the Discord is bots, right?
Yeah.
So I go by it with the Discord numbers because they're easy to fake, right? Like you could just go buy Discord members. If there's not an active online presence of more than like 15% of the total people in that Discord, I'm out. It's probably fake, right? So like something really good is like 30%. And then you go down to like that 15 is kind of the cutoff. Anything below 10 is fishy to me. So just another, like, if you don't have anybody that with that insight, you may go get wrecked on something like that. And so it's really important to have those tools as well as people in your network to bounce stuff off of.
So like when you're researching a project, what are some of the things, I know you talked before about the founder, the innovation, the creativity and stuff like that, but is there anything that you don't want to see? Like as far as like on the roadmap, are they making too big of promises, or I don't know, is there any red flags glaring?
Well, I think the socials are probably number one, because you can tell very easily if somebody's faking them, right? So that example I just gave on the Discord, that's probably my number one red flag, is if I could tell that something's got inflated or artificial socials, right? And so you can tell that a little easier. Like Twitter's a little harder, but it's not that hard to tell, right? So say a project's, got 100,000 followers and they're tweeting a giveaway, and their tweets got 20 retweets on it, right? Well, that means most of those followers are fake, and you can see that the actual organic interaction with this is small, right? So socials is a huge one, because if they're faking their socials, they probably have low integrity as a founder group, right? Two, if their socials are faked, the perceived demand is probably not actually there, right? So you're just going to end up minting something and get wrecked. As far as like roadmap stuff, too lofty is like you just mentioned, like the one extreme, which is like these big things that will obviously never happen. And then on the other side, not big enough, where like last year on people's roadmaps, we would see something like, oh, 10% sold, we'll get Discord Nitro. And you're just like, bro, that's not a roadmap item. You're like, that's not a roadmap item. But, or, at this point, everybody's got merch on their roadmap. But,
is that even cool? Like, don't you
for
have to
Happy
have
Meals.
don't you
I'm
have to
just saying.
have a brand first before people want to rep your brand? Or
Yeah.
is that just me?
No, I think you're totally 100% right. Like, first of all, not every freaking project needs merch, right? Like, I don't need Invisible Friends merch. They're invisible, right?
But we would want Trippy Babies merch.
Well, of course. I mean,
Make it a thing.
You don't have to state the obvious here. Trippy Babies merch. It's the next Supreme Trippy Babies. But yeah, stuff like that. And then I really pay attention to how the team interacts with community, and if they're actually actively doing, community type events. And it totally depends too on what your mentality is as an NFT investor. Are you a trader? Are you a flipper? Are you a trader? Are you an investor? What's your time horizon? All of that stuff matters. And you need to ask yourself those questions before you can really assess what your checklist is going to be, right? So I would say I have been evolving my strategy based on what we've talked about earlier, like how you can feel the market kind of shifting, right? Like, I was a DGen flipper trader, and I could do it with the best of them, right? Like, I could flip a JPEG pretty damn good, right? And it's getting harder to do. So, I would say part of this too is being honest with yourself and adapting, right? Where I had to change my strategy a lot because the whitelist meta, right? Like the whole allow list meta became this thing where it made it impossible to just mint a project. You had to go then grind a Discord for 20 hours, and I don't got time for that, right? Like, so I ended up shifting myself from like a big minter to, okay, now I'm identifying plays on the secondary. And that's a whole different skill set that you have to have tools and knowledge about, and what makes a good secondary play, right? Or there's, the investor, like somebody like Steve or like NFT Bark, who you talk to, where his strategy is completely different. And he buys in and he hooks in, and he's there for the community. He's there for the vibes. He's there for the party, and he ain't selling unless you pry it away from his cold, dead hands. Right. And
you're the diamond hander.
Yeah. And that's worked very, very well for him. Right. So look, you want to talk rec stories. I sold 5 Bored Apes under 7 ETH. I sold 3 Azukis pre-reveal. I minted 20 MFers that I sold at a net loss. I fumbled a Wolf game bag pretty heavy that was at one point worth like 800 grand. I've got these stories for days, right? So and if I would have taken Steve's approach, I would have I might have an island or something by now.
You might.
But hey, you know what? I know that you did all right because you're still standing and you're still smiling. Because damn it, if I fumbled 5 apes, I would have been, boy, you wouldn't see me. I would retire.
Bro, honestly, that's a whole different conversation about what stuff like this does to your mental health, right? Where you can't be in this game if you don't know if you can't handle your mental health. And it's hard. Like, I put out a tweet the other day about that exact thing that I said about, because there was a lot of people that were sour over missing Moonbirds. And I was like on a high because I crushed Moonbirds, but I knew what everybody else was feeling. Because, like, I'll tell you right now, the week of the ape coin airdrop, I was in my feelings real hard. Like, that airdrop, if I would have held those apes, was worth quite a bag, right? And especially now where it hit $27 today, something stupid. I get what people are feeling, and so it's how you. But when I look back at that, each one of those sales that I made at the time leveled me up, right? And that's why I made the sales, because at the time it leveled me up and it pushed me forward. And I was ultimately able to quit my job and do this shit full time. And I hated my job at the time. So it was leveling me up enough at the time.
I love that, man, because honestly, me and Courtney, we always talk about, in this gets thrown around a decent amount, but like nobody ever went broke taking profit. Like we always say that because, if you're taking profit, like you're coming out on top. You can hold it until it's 1 ETH or whatever, but if you need that money and you're going to put towards something that you can use in real life, or maybe put into another project that builds up, like you're doing the right thing, right? Everybody wants to hold for the next Bored Ape, but Bored Apes are Bored Apes. It'll take some time for another project to get to that point. But, whenever I miss something, or for example, when my wallet got hacked, like I was salty. 3 of my losers got stolen, and a Jenkins The Valet. Still hurts to say that to this day. But I'm like, you know what? This space is so crazy that I know I'm going to hit big on something and I'm going to be good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's just kind of how I look at it. It hurt at that time, but you kind of just, like in football, we call it the next play mentality. You mess up, you got to move on to the next play.
Well,
I messed up, I got to move on to the next play.
It's totally right too, because, and so not only from the profit taking standpoint, because quite honestly, I've held plenty of things that are now worth 0 that are in my wallet, right? So it's like you either, most projects are not the next Bored Apes. Most projects are not the next Moonbirds. Most projects are not the next Doodles, Azuki, Cool Cats, whatever, right? Most of them are not. And then you see some projects like something like Alien Friends, right? That came out to a hot start, went to 4 ETH, and right now they're sitting at like 0.6, right? So they've gone all the way up, all the way down. So if you're selling, like sell when it makes sense to sell for you, don't look back, level up, move on. And the ones that you miss on, you can learn just as much, if not more, on the ones you miss on, if you're self-aware enough to actually be honest with yourself on, okay, why did I not, like a big one for me is Azuki, right? So for me, Azuki, not my art, not my type of art style. So I really saw it from the whole time as a flip, and I didn't look further than that. And I was totally dead wrong. And I missed, 3 Azuki's worth of gains on it. Right. And it was because I wasn't open enough to seeing what else was there that everybody else was seeing. And so you learn from the losers just as much, or those misses, as much as you do, and probably more, quite honestly. Yeah. And so, but I couldn't agree more with you on that.
Yeah. I mean, so we don't want to take up too much of your time, but I have to ask, like I was asking Steve, NFT Bark, I'm like, what is Bunchu known for? Because I know a bunch of people that know you, and I'm like, what is he known for? And Steve said, you're the tools guy. So we talked about Etherscan. Steve has mentioned Block Native on the show before. What are your top tools that you can't go without?
I'm gonna bust Steve's chops because Steve got a lot of credit for mentioning Block Native on your show, and I taught him what Block Native was.
All right, well, the truth is out.
I busted his chops the other day about it. No, but so Block Native is an awesome one if you are ever minting. One, it's super important to. Just like Etherscan, the reason I said it's important, it's kind of like the basis of what's going on behind the scenes. And so it's really also important to understand gas, right? And why your transactions are doing what they're doing and how that all works. Block Native is a really easy way to visualize kind of what's going on. If you want something that's really cool that if you're new to gas in general, there's a website called, let me see, it's called TX Street, I believe, like Transaction Street. And let me just get the exact, txstreet.com. And you can actually see real time in a visual. And it's almost like you're waiting for a bus or a train, how these transactions are moving. And you can see when people pay more gas to skip the line, they like jump to the front of the train. So it's a really easy way to like visualize what's actually going on with these gas transactions. That's a really cool one. I would recommend to anybody who hasn't spent a lot of time learning about gas to watch it for like 20 minutes. One, you'll be mesmerized. It's just like stupid, like cartoon thing, but you'll actually start to see, and on the side, it shows you like what apps or dApps or whatever is actually causing a lot of the the network activity, right? So you'll see stuff like Uniswap or a contract address for a hot mint. So that's really cool to, as an added piece to learn more about gas. But I mean, I got tools for days. If you go to my Twitter, it's my Twitter account is at Bunchu Bets. Well, there you go. That's the origin from the sports betting days. My pinned tweet I literally put out one on 420, and it was all links to these tools: market data, aggregators, portfolio management, rarity, trading stuff. And I put out links to like 3 or 4 things for each of them, which is super helpful. But some of my favorites are my most favorite one right now is called NFTnerds.ai. Have you ever used that one?
Never even heard of it.
Oh man, this is a gotta have if you're a degen, you gotta have NFT Nerds. And so like some of the cool things that does, there's like a live sales and minting feed transaction, like a fire hose. You could literally see every transaction that's happening on the blockchain. You could go into specific collections that are happening, and it'll show you real-time listings, real-time rarity, real-time sales, and you can actually even purchase directly from there. It's aggregating your OpenSea or Luxor listings, and you can literally click buy, and you can preset your gas on there. So like what this is really good for is like reveal sniping, or like Moonbird's mint the other day, where you can see everything coming in real time, and you can pick the one you want without having to go to OpenSea. You just click it, you gas it up, and you beat the living shit out of whoever was trying to buy it.
Damn,
yeah,
okay.
Nerds is my favorite. But other ones like that that I use, Mobi.gg. Have you used that?
Never heard of this.
Oh man, Mobi's a good one too. So Mobi is one that was like my original tool I got started on. The best for that was, again, you have a live mint feed, so you could see what's minting in real time. And so that's helpful it's helpful for a couple of reasons. One, it's kind of a cheat code to research, right? Because you can see a block of things being minted, and you're like, oh, I've never heard of this project. And then 2 clicks later, you're like, oh, okay, what is this? And should I be minting this? But the other thing I like is the wallet. You could do wallet alerts on there too. So if you have, some people that you're interested in what they're collecting, when they're buying, when they're selling, if you're a wallet watcher, you can set alerts for that. You can actually build a Discord hook for all of those as well. So like I have a little Discord that all these wallet alerts come to, and it tells me, hey, Steve bought another sup duck. Oh, cool. and things like that. Or, there's a lot of people that I wouldn't recommend. If you're gonna wallet watch, do it right. Don't follow wallets like Pranksy. Don't follow wallets like Phase Banks and these big influencers, because
they get stuff sent to them, right?
Well, they get stuff sent to them too, and you also don't know their motives for buying into projects all the time. They could be a compensated advisor or whatever, So if you're gonna wallet watch, I would recommend. Have you used Nansen before? So Nansen.io.
I would not stand a chance against somebody like you. You got the edge.
Dude, I'm not even there. I'm not even the best at this shit, right? So, so Nansen, you could actually go in and look at people's realized Ethereum gains, right? So you can find the best traders out there by actual gains made, and then you set an alert for their wallet. Those are the guys you want, right? The ones that nobody knows what they're doing in the background, but they're making thousands of ETH. Those are the guys I want to know what they're minting, right? I don't care what Pranksy's minting. Those are a couple of my favorite ones for like market research, market data, stuff like that. A couple other ones, Icy Tools, Flips.finance is a great one. Flips.finance, I use that for like stuff like it shows you really cool real-time graphs of number of listed in a collection and if it's going up or down. So you can I use this a lot for like secondary plays, total number of like unique holders, things like that, that are important if you're going to buy something on secondary, volume, all that kind of stuff. And then like portfolio tracker stuff, important. WGMI.io. Have you used that one? That's like that's my favorite.
Assume I haven't heard of any of these things.
Okay, well, WGMI is a must. If you own more than like 10 NFTs, get WGMI, and right. It's like a real time. You put your wallet address in, you connect your wallet. It scans all of your NFTs that you hold. It shows you real-time floor price of each collection. It'll actually show you the trait floors of all of your NFTs. So really I use that most to help me price stuff when I'm selling, because I'll know the trait floor. You can go in and filter by volume. So if something that I've been holding forever that I wish I wasn't holding has some kind of spike in volume, I can see that and get rid of it. Stuff like that. Another really good one, if you're buying bulk buying stuff, like if you want to sweep a floor because you're a goddamn G.
I hope I get to that point.
If you want to sweep a floor, you go to either genie.xyz or gem or
I
gem.
have heard of these. I've heard of these.
Genie and Gem. Gem apparently, I guess, just got bought by OpenSea.
Yep.
And I guess the next day it broke. So like shocker.
On brand.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So I don't know how good Gem is working, but it was the better one because it saved you on gas. I don't know if it still is, but Genie works the same way. You can mass list on them as well. If you're going to trade NFTs, like make a trade between you and I, and we don't know each other, pseudo swap and what's the other? NFTtrader.io are good ones for that. What those allow you to do is actually basically escrow your both sides of the trade trustlessly, so that you don't have to, I don't have to be like, yo, dude, send me the ETH first. And you're like, no, dude, send me this cat picture first. That's worth $10,000. And you can actually just fill both sides of the trade and actually execute it through a smart contract. So you don't actually have to, trust anybody, which is kind of what this is all about, right?
So, I was
that's a few of them. There's a list of like 20 more.
How you were gonna like come at this, and you literally just dropped 10 different like
alpha gems.
My mind is like,
you might need to rewind that part.
I was literally bookmarking everything that you said.
Xbox,
like, I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, well, if you missed any of it and you don't want to hear my voice talk about them again, you can go to my pinned tweet and they're all listed there for you. But yeah, tools, they're super important. They help make it easier, right? I mentioned having a network of friends to bounce stuff off of. This is just your like digital friend that tells you all the data, right? It's your R2D2.
Awesome. That's amazing.
I love it.
Man.
Bunchu, man, like I really appreciate you. We've had the opportunity to have a lot of great guests on. And you're up there with one of the best.
You came with that bar, like, hey, anybody else better come with some serious alpha.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys. Well, I mean, first of all, we got to get you guys in the war room and start you on the DGen diet, right?
Yeah.
Just 24/7 feeding you degenerate NFT information. And then we'll also have to do a crossover podcast on the mint condition.
Let's do it. We're always down, and you can go ahead and let the people know where they can follow you. The DGen Network socials, Wrecked, Mint Condition, all that good stuff.
Yeah, you can follow me at Bunchu Bets. You could follow the DGen Network, which is at DGen Network, but it's DGEN network. So we also, we do so much cool stuff over at DGen, articles, podcasts. We have Coffee with Captain, the NFT Night Shift, which is another one of our podcasts, which is like, you thought I have like Alpha and Unplugged In, these guys are all part of the war room, and they're just the biggest degens. Like they're the up until 2 o'clock in the morning, like minting free mints and flipping them for 5x or straight to the hidden folder, right? Like, and but they have a lot of great content over there. And we also have a newsletter through Degen, which is really great. We do, some allow us partnerships and stuff through that. So yeah, check us out at Degen. And then the Mint Condition podcast is probably the main one you'll want to check out from us, which is on Twitter at the Mint. The Mint Condition was taken, so we have a shitty handle. It's at the Mint Cond, COND. Well, we gotta go buy the other one. Maybe I gotta at least get the ENS domain.
Sounds like Polygon.
Yeah, dude, it's such a shitty handle. Just go to Degen and you'll find it.
Hit the link tree. Though it's all good.
That's right.
We'll plug
That's
you.
right.
Man, that's been fun. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys. This was a great time.
Thanks, man. You have a great night.
You too.